I'm a 33-year-old single mom with a 5-year-old daughter. My husband cheated on me while I was pregnant, so we separated after I gave birth. I kicked him out of my life and moved back in with my parents. 2 days ago, I came home from work to find my younger sister, Eva, who's 29, sitting there with a big pregnant belly. She and her husband had moved to Croatia after they got married. Surprisingly, I felt happy about her being pregnant, even though she's always been mean to me. For some reason, she never liked me and thought she was better than me. She used to manipulate our parents against me, and because she's younger, she often got away with it. Despite being younger, she's bigger and stronger than me. Despite my petite and lean physique, if my sister, Eva, grabbed my wrist, I couldn't break free. Even though it was evident to anyone that I couldn't physically overpower her, my parents never believed me when I told them she had beaten me. They dismiss it, saying she's my younger sister. How could she possibly harm me? So, I kept my distance from her, only speaking when necessary. Fortunately, I got the chance to move out for high school, which was a relief from her presence. Now that monster is back in my life, and seeing her pregnant, I assumed she was here for her postpartum period. When I asked Mom how long she was planning to stay, Ava overheard and shouted from the living room that she's here to stay, questioning if I had a problem with that. She hasn't changed one bit, still as narcissistic as ever. Mom explained that Eva's husband got a transfer back to the States, and since Eva is pregnant, they believe staying with our parents is best for her. They can take care of her during pregnancy and after childbirth. When I asked Mom if she had time to take care of her, she timidly replied that she had to. Eva is still young, and they think she can't raise her child alone. I was speechless, really. Eva is 29 and can't handle raising her child alone. I was 27 when I had my baby, and I managed my postpartum period alone because my husband was busy. Even my mom didn't come to help. She said it was something I needed to learn as a mother. Now, with her golden child pregnant, my mom is ready to step in as a nanny, such a hypocrite. Their favoritism has always been clear, which is why I've kept my distance. When I separated from my husband, I rented a house instead of moving in with my parents. But Dad insisted I live with them, saying their house was too big for just the two of them, and they could watch over my daughter while I worked. He suggested I pay rent to them instead of to someone else, which seemed fair, especially since I was dealing with so much emotional turmoil. Pregnancy, postpartum struggles, my husband's infidelity, and divorce. I moved in with them, not facing any major issues except that the promised support to watch over my daughter faltered. Mom only agreed to babysit a few times. Most of the time, I had to hire a nanny. She claimed she couldn't babysit full-time, so I needed to find someone else to help. While Mom could oversee the nanny's work, she seemed more interested in being a baby monitor herself. Quite ironic, if you ask me. Despite the circumstances, I figured having Mom around was better than leaving my daughter with a stranger. So I hired a full-time nanny as well. It's disheartening to see Mom fussing over my sister, providing her with food, meds, and supplements. She never did any of that for me during my 9 months of pregnancy. She barely visited me, and only once after I gave birth. Ever since I learned that Eva is staying permanently, I've had this gut feeling that something's up. How could they agree to let her move in for good? Our house isn't that big. I'm happy to move out. But my daughter is too young to be left alone without supervision. Even though Mom doesn't exclusively babysit her, it feels safer having her around. If I moved out, I'd always need a babysitter at home, and I'm not sure how safe it is to leave my kid with a stranger. I know I might come off as a clingy mom, but hey, I'm a single mother, and my daughter is my whole world. I might be overly protective, but what else can I do? She's my everything. Update 1. I'm so grateful for all the advice. It really helped calm my nerves. Unfortunately, my worst fears came true just 2 days after my last post. When I came home from work, I found all my belongings packed and placed on the front porch, with my daughter sitting quietly next to them. She looked so scared and upset. When I asked her who did this, she said it was Anne, and she had made her sit there for hours. I immediately asked where Grandma and Grandpa were, but my daughter didn't say anything. She just hugged me tightly, clearly terrified of Aunt Eva. I asked if Eva had hurt her or shouted at her, and she sobbed, saying that Eva was yelling things she didn't understand and was thrashing around all my belongings, which made her feel threatened. Furious, I stormed inside to confront Eva. She had the audacity to threaten me, saying something about messing with a pregnant woman and threatening to call the cops on me for harassment. I shot back, telling her I could call the cops on her for harassing my daughter while I was away. She just laughed and said I didn't have any evidence, claiming Mom was there when she packed my stuff. It became clear that Mom was on her side, and talking to Eva was futile. I called out for Mom, but there was no response. She had locked herself in her room. It became evident that they were all ganged up against me, with Eva's evil laugh confirming it. She looked at me with a smirk, reveling in my helplessness, and said, "Take a hint, you dumbass. No one wants you here. We packed for you to make it easier. Can't you see I'm pregnant and need space? Me and my child are staying here now. Get your lazy butt moving." Refusing to back down, I retorted, "I'm not going anywhere. I don't live here for free like you. I pay rent." But before I could say more, she charged at me, reminiscent of our childhood clashes. She mocked me, asking if I had a receipt or lease paper to prove it. I didn't, and she seized on that, calling me a loser and saying that's why my husband found solace in another woman's bed, because I'm useless. Realizing there was no point in arguing further, especially in front of my terrified daughter, I loaded my car with our belongings and left. There was nothing left to discuss. My parents had shown their true colors, spineless in front of Eva. It dawned on me that Eva wasn't lying about Mom being there. She had helped pack my stuff. There's no way Eva, 7 months pregnant, could have managed it alone. They were all in this together. It's baffling that Eva, with her husband's decent job, is adamant on making my life miserable when they could easily afford their own place. Instead, she chased me out, leaving her husband to live alone in their company-provided flat while she stays here to hassle me. I can't fathom what I did to deserve this treatment from her, especially when my own parents won't stand up for me. I had to check into a hotel for a week and scramble to find a new place to live. House hunting in such a short time frame felt impossible, especially with work and taking care of my daughter. No one wants a flatmate with a baby, but I managed to persuade a colleague who was looking for one. I assured her that my daughter wouldn't be a bother, and I'd leave as soon as I found a permanent place. Thankfully, she was understanding and let us stay. It's been 2 weeks living with my colleague, and I finally found a place within my budget and close to both my workplace and my daughter's daycare. However, the existing tenant won't vacate for another month. It's been almost 3 weeks since I was forced to move out, and I've already made the bookings for our new place. However, my daughter is still shaken with fear, constantly worried that Aunt Eva will come after us and hurt us. It breaks my heart to see her like this. She struggles to describe exactly what Eva did to her, but she cries and says that Aunt Eva yelled at her, stared at her with wide eyes, and threatened to hit her if she cried. She still sobs and wets her bed out of fear of Eva. I feel utterly helpless seeing my daughter suffer like this. I can't even begin to imagine how scared and unsafe she must have felt that day. It's infuriating to think that Eva, who is about to become a mother herself, lacks any empathy for a child's fear. I'll never forgive her for what she's done. And if I ever get the chance, I swear I'll make her pay for it. Update 2. I've been waiting for an opportunity, and it finally came. As I mentioned, for the past year, I've been paying rent to live at my parents' house. Dad asked for an extra $5,000 on top of the rent, promising to return it later. I agreed, thinking I was helping him out. Little did I know, he was using my rent money and that extra $5,000 to pay the mortgage. Now that I've moved out, I didn't pay the rent with that extra amount. On the 10th of this month, Dad called me in a panic, asking why I hadn't transferred the money. I couldn't help but laugh. He was so confident that I'd continue paying the rent even after being kicked out, that he didn't bother checking his account balance or keeping emergency funds. I told him, "Hello, I no longer live at your house. Your golden child kicked me out, remember? So why should I pay the rent?" He was silent for a moment, and then admitted that he didn't make enough money to pay the mortgage. He said his store's sales had dwindled, and whatever little he made went towards household expenses. He confessed that he had been using my rent money and the extra $5,000 to pay the mortgage. I responded firmly, "That's not my problem. I don't owe you anything. I paid for my stay and bought my own food. Ask your narcissistic daughter to help you out. I'm sure she would." With that, I hung up. Within an hour, Mom called me, saying Dad was struggling to pay the mortgage, and instead of helping him, I was hanging up on him. She reminded me of how they stood by me when my husband left me, saying this was how I was repaying them. She urged me to swallow my pride and transfer the money I'd been sending every month. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I replied, "Do you even hear yourself? You let me live in your house because I paid rent, and you used it for a mortgage. Whenever I needed help with my daughter, I hired a babysitter. You didn't pitch in. What kind of support are you talking about?" It's clear my mom realized I wasn't going to tolerate being pushed around like I used to as a child. Now I know how to stand up for myself. She tried to justify Eva's actions, saying she needed more space because she's pregnant, but I wasn't having it. I reminded her that Eva didn't request me to move out. She threw me out, and they all chose to turn a blind eye to it. I made it clear that I could never forgive them for allowing Eva to harm my daughter. Mom then tried to defend Eva, saying she's immature and I should overlook her behavior because I'm older and wiser. But it was clear to me that it was all about the money. I refused to be manipulated any longer. I told them I wouldn't give them a penny, and they stopped bothering me after that. It's been a month since then, and I think they're managing the mortgage on their own or with Eva's help. Honestly, I don't care what's going on in their lives anymore. I'm happy in my cozy little home with my daughter. I've hired a nanny who takes care of her after preschool. The nanny is a middle-aged woman with a son who's 5 years older than my daughter. They get along great and have a wonderful time together. It feels amazing to come home to a happy and loving daughter. Life does get better. We just need to hang in there. Update 3. Firstly, I want to express my gratitude for all the love and support. It truly means a lot to me, and I apologize for not updating this thread frequently. There were two main reasons for this. Firstly, I've severed all ties with my parents and narcissistic sister, so there wasn't much relevant to share. Secondly, life has been busy. I got promoted this year, which comes with added responsibilities but also extra pay, and I've been caught up with work and motherly duties. But I have an interesting update to share this time. Last week, my mom and dad showed up at my workplace. They didn't know where I lived, so they came to me as a last resort. I was too busy to meet them, so I instructed the security to ask them to leave. However, they seemed unwilling to go and were arguing with security. They looked frail and as if they had aged at least 10 years. To my surprise, my mom was carrying an infant in her arms, which I assumed was Eva's child. Intrigued, I went out to meet them. Upon seeing me, they started sobbing. They came to me desperate for help to save their house. Dad explained that he hadn't been able to pay the mortgage for the past 7 to 8 months. He used up all their savings to cover the initial 2 to 3 months after I left, but they kept defaulting. Last month, the bank finally kicked them out, and their house was put up for sale. Since then, they've been living in a dingy apartment. They pleaded with me to help them save their house. I listened patiently and then asked why their entitled daughter hadn't helped them. They hung their heads in shame and revealed that Eva's husband had kicked her out after discovering she was cheating on him, and the baby wasn't his. All the stories about transfers and company accommodations were lies. Her husband was still in Croatia, and they're getting a divorce. I was shocked to hear this. Even after all that, my parents continued to support her. Mom tearfully admitted they didn't know about Eva's situation. She had claimed she was here for the delivery but disappeared after I moved out, and they only asked her for help with the mortgage then. When the truth came out, I was initially speechless. But then, I couldn't hold back my emotions and hugged my mom, tears streaming down my face. I couldn't help but point out that their support for Eva was evident by the fact that my mom was holding Eva's child in her arms. They explained they couldn't leave Eva in such a dire situation. They had used up all their savings to cover her medical bills. I fell silent, contemplating what to do next. Without overthinking, I asked where Eva was. Mom mumbled something, but Dad gave her a look and said Eva was at home, refusing to go to work. Mom interjected, saying it was because she couldn't leave the baby. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. I reminded Mom that mothers all over the world go back to work when their babies are 6 months old, and Eva should have done the same, especially given her circumstances. They continued pleading for help, but I explained that I didn't have enough money to save their house. Dad suggested that if I could pay for the defaulted months, he could request the manager to stop the sale, and we could continue with the remaining payments monthly. I had to be honest and say I didn't have that kind of money. I had used up my savings to pay the deposit for my house lease and for my daughter's elementary school admission. Mom didn't take my response well, making faces in disappointment. I gently reminded her that I'm a single mom, solely responsible for myself and my daughter, and my resources were limited. Feeling low after my parents left, I confided in my manager when she noticed my absence from my desk for over an hour. She suggested a solution: to buy the house myself, given my recent promotion and raise. After all the years of helping with the mortgage and now trying to save the house, it seemed like a fair deal. In return, I'd allow my parents to continue living there, but without Eva. I called Dad and offered to pay off the piled-up mortgage and the remaining payments if they transferred the house to my name. Dad said he needed to discuss it with Mom and would let me know. I told him to take his time, unsure if they had enough. A week passed, and they didn't call me back. It seemed like their silence was their answer. They didn't agree with my proposal. They were okay with their house being sold and living in a dingy apartment, as long as they didn't have to let go of Eva and live comfortably. Driving home from work, I thought of passing by their house to see if the sale sign was up, but I decided against it. I made the decision to cut them out of my life a year ago, and I would stick to it. I don't want them back in my life. I'm happy and content living with my daughter, watching her grow and achieve new milestones. She's now in elementary school, and I couldn't be prouder.